Wojciech Sobierajski, also known as the record breaker, is a Polish extreme endurance athlete who initially gained wider acclaim in 2021 for his 12 records in 12 months project. Recently, he smashed David Goggins's world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours. He's paddled the longest distance in a kayak in 24 hours and has successfully climbed Mount Kilimanjaro barefoot. Which brings us on to his next challenge, which he will attempt in Norway on March the 28th. Wojciech is now attempting to be the first man to complete a marathon on ice, barefoot. Wojciech Sobierajski, welcome to TVP World. So could you tell me first of all, what was the path that led you to become a prolific record breaker?
Actually, my whole life, I've trained in different sports. It started with football, like with most young boys. Then I did acrobatics. After that, I moved to boxing, and I stayed there longer. I boxed for 10 years and had 100 fights. Somewhere in the attic, I even still have a gold medal from the Polish Cup in boxing. Later, I moved to obstacle course racing. There, I became a 3-time vice world champion. Then the pandemic came, and all competitions were cancelled. You couldn't compete anywhere. And because I wanted to promote my sponsors, the ones whose logos I had on my shirt and on my social media, I came up with the idea to start a project called Record Holder. I would break records, because at that time, the rules allowed gatherings of only 3 people. So I thought, a judge, me, and a cameraman. That's 3 people. But to attract TV stations, I thought it had to be a long-term project. So I came up with the idea of 12 records in 12 months. Every month, breaking another record. That way there would be continuity, and it would keep viewers and sponsors interested for longer. It developed so much that later all the records were shown on television, for example, live on the show Pytanie na śniadanie, and also on competing TV stations. And it grew so much, attracting sponsors and viewers, and it became my way of making a living. So now you could say I'm a professional record breaker. My job is simply to break records, and I make a living from it.
What first inspired you to try to run a full marathon barefoot on ice?
W 2022 roku pobiłem rekord Wima Hofa.
In 2022, I broke the record by Wim Hof. The challenge was to run a half marathon, barefoot on ice. At that time, I flew to Iceland, near the Arctic Circle, and I completed it in 1 hour and 38 minutes. Wim Hof's time was over 2 hours, so I managed to beat his record. Until then, that had been the longest distance anyone had run barefoot on snow. No one had run farther than a half marathon barefoot on snow. But last year in Norway, on Lake Islefjorden, I saw that a Polish athlete broke that record and ran farther than a half marathon. He ran a full marathon. That really shocked me, because after my half marathon I had 3 frostbitten toes. I ended up in a hospital in Iceland, and for a month I had no feeling in 3 toes. So I wondered how it was possible that he ran the whole marathon. But there are some important differences. While I ran, I had to wear only shorts, so my entire body was very cold. It was about minus a dozen degrees near the Arctic Circle, so my whole body was freezing and my feet froze faster. In this attempt, I can be fully dressed, hat, sweatshirt, pants, only my feet must be bare. If the rest of the body is warm, blood circulation in the feet is better and they freeze more slowly. So that's where I see my chance, to beat the record by running more than 42 kilometers.
And could you tell us, how do you avoid slipping over on the ice?
Actually, slipping isn't the problem. The biggest problem is this record is something else. In most challenges, the worse it gets, the more it hurts. The more injuries you get, the more pain you feel. For example, when I'm doing pull-ups, each repetition creates bigger blisters and more pain. That's the body telling you to stop. But in this record, it's the opposite. The worse it gets, the less pain you feel, because your feet become more frozen and eventually stop hurting altogether. That's what happened during my half marathon. When I finished, I thought everything was fine, because I felt nothing. I thought, nothing hurts. That's great. But actually, it meant things were very bad, because my feet were already frostbitten. So in this marathon, it will be very difficult to notice the moment when I should stop, when the damage is still reversible and doctors wouldn't have to amputate my toes. Because in reality, I'll feel better and better as my feet become more frozen.
And what are the biggest challenges involved in this? Is it more psychological or more physical?
Most of my records are psychological challenges. They are long, painful, and often boring during the process. Much more often, I have to fight the mental battle than a physical one. I know many people who are faster, stronger, and more athletic than me. But in these kinds of records, the psyche is what matters most. Being able to keep going when it hurts for a long time, when you're tired, sleepy, and exhausted. So, in my opinion, mental strength matters more.
Psychika ma większe znaczenie.
And where does this challenge rank in terms of difficulty in comparison to your previous record attempts?
No właśnie tutaj myślę, że fizycznie
Physically, it will be a big challenge. Many people can run a marathon, and if they took their shoes off, they could probably still do it. But this challenge is extremely risky. It's the most risky record I have ever attempted. There's a real chance of long-term damage to my health. I could freeze my feet so badly that my toes might need to be amputated. So this is definitely the most dangerous record I've attempted.
Could you tell us which sport influenced you or shaped you the most in terms of the athlete you've become today?
ze wszystkich dyscyplin, które uprawiałem, najbliżej mojemu sercu jest do boksu.
Of all the sports I've done, the closest to my heart is boxing. I come from a large family. I have 6 brothers and 2 sisters. In a big family like that, there's always fighting and pushing. It's natural that you have to fight for your place. I simply loved fighting, and still do. I feel very comfortable with it. Even now, when I'm no longer a professional boxer, my brothers and I sometimes spar together. We have gloves and protective gear. I think boxing shaped my mentality. Often, I fought opponents who were far more experienced than me. For example, in my first Polish championship tournament, I had only 4 fights in my career. In amateur boxing, the opponents are drawn randomly. My first opponent was the current Polish champion, who had 120 fights. I had only 4 fights, but I still had to go in and fight him. He beat me badly. I lost clearly on points, but I didn't give up and he didn't knock me out. A year later, we fought again. That fight was much closer and it ended in a draw. That shows that it's worth not giving up. Even if the beginning is difficult, if you keep going, you can eventually reach your goals. And I later managed to win the Polish Cup gold medal in boxing.
Robić swoje, dążyć za marzeniami i w końcu osiągnąć cel. I tak mi się udało i zdobyłem ten złoty medal Pucharu Polski w boksie.
And lastly, could you tell us, now Poland appears to produce a disproportionate number of prolific extreme endurance athletes. Could you tell us why you think that is? Is it history? Is it mentality? Maybe the climate?
Racja, mamy w Polsce mnóstwo
It's true. We have many fantastic extreme endurance athletes in Poland. There's Robert Karaś, Juras Czabański, Bartek Kubkowski. So I think we really are a powerhouse in this discipline. Why? It's hard to say. Each of us comes from different backgrounds and families, so I don't think it's about tough childhood conditions shaping us. Honestly, I don't know the answer. Yes, of course, I know all those athletes. I know Bartek Kubkowski very well, the one who swam across the Baltic Sea several times. I also know Robert Karaś. They've all been here at my place in the attic. Sometimes we even train together. They're complete maniacs. Actually, we decided not to train together too often because we push each other too much. When people with the same mentality meet, the training turns into a slaughter. Everyone wants to beat the others. So it becomes destructive. I think the common trait among extreme athletes who are successful is determination and resilience, not giving up during difficult moments, a strong character and the ability to endure pain. All endurance sports involve long efforts. If Bartek Kubkowski swims across the Baltic, it takes about 70 hours. After 20 or 30 hours, the blisters and injuries hurt terribly. Robert Karaś doing a 10 times Ironman is also an unbelievable effort. So I think the key trait is tolerance for pain.
Więc myślę, że tutaj odporność na ból, że to jest kluczowa cecha.
And when you were a youngster, a child, were there any particularly adventurers, maybe Himalayas or people like Alexander Doba who particularly influenced you and inspired you?
Tak, miałem idoli, którzy właśnie...
Yes, I had idols who did these kinds of things. As you mentioned, Alexander Doba. I even have several of his books. Later, it was an honor for me that I could try to beat his record. Alexander Doba kayaked from Przemyśl to Świnoujście, about 1,200 kilometers. It took him 13 days. I tried to beat that record and managed to do it in 11 days. It was an amazing feeling to beat the result of someone who inspired me. Also, since childhood, I've always loved winning. Whatever we did, football, computer games, board games, I always had to win against my brothers. If I lost, which didn't happen often, I immediately wanted a rematch to win back. So I think another very important trait is loving to win and hating to lose. If someone accepts defeat easily, they don't push themselves to improve and achieve success.
Osiągnąć sukces.
Wojciech Sobierajski, thank you very much.
Proszę bardzo.
No problem.